Today we're turning back time. We're going to be playing 2017 Legacy versus BoshNRoll, but each deck has a twist. Let's go check it out. Let's begin by thanking William Shane for today's donation deck. William, or Will, thank you. And Will watched that previous Era Battles video, which you can find on the card above, where at the end, Brian and I were discussing how I have regrets that I didn't figure out Gitaxian Probe and then Mox Opal in the same deck list. And today we're playing both 4 copies of Gitaxian Probe and Mox Opal in the Epic Storm, which back in 2017 was an ad nauseum strategy. So your ad nauseums get better because you have 16 0-mana artifacts in your deck. Your Empty the Warrens become even more explosive because you have more initial mana sources with your Mox Opals. And then on top of that, you get to play Diminishing Returns in the sideboard and not have it be bad because you do have 16 0-mana artifacts in your deck. So the Diminishing Returns is over Past in Flames, which wouldn't be very good anyway with only Dark Ritual in the deck. And I think that is going to be a big upgrade to this deck. I did feature it in that last Era Battles video, but this is the upgrade that has the Mox Opal and the Gitaxian Probe. But today we're actually playing 5 decks. We're not just playing the Epic Storm. So that is a request by Will, and the 5 decks that I'll be playing are Doomsday, Lion's Eye Diamond Dredge, Mox Opal TES, Dimir Reanimator, and then Rainbow or Bug Depths, whatever you would like to call it. So the first deck that I'll show here is Doomsday, but it's built with the modern philosophy in mind. And I say that because back in 2017, Doomsday was sort of built like Bad Storm. There was a lot of Tendrils of Agony in there, and they were still trying to be a really fast combo deck, where if you look at Doomsday these days, it's really a Force of Will deck that protects itself with things like Thoughtseize and Daze, and it plays a more controlling game. It can be fast, but it's highly interactive. And when you look at this deck, it's built like the modern decks, and I think that makes it a lot better. So a really cool thing about this deck is that you actually have a really sweet win with Predict because you don't have Thassa's Oracle. Instead, you have Laboratory Maniac. So the idea is that with Doomsday, you stack your 5 cards, you draw Predict for turn, you mill over your Laboratory Maniac, and then you'll draw 2, which might be something like Unearth and Edge of Autumn. From there, you unearth the Laboratory Maniac, you cycle Edge of Autumn, and win the game. That's pretty cool. And other than that, it's fairly stock Doomsday, but people for some reason didn't figure this deck list out at the time, and you have the huge upgrade in the deck of Gitaxian Probe to get into your Doomsday pile for free. So you actually have 4 Gitaxian Probe, 2 Edge of Autumn, and 2 Street Wraiths. So 8 free ways to get into your Doomsday pile, which is really, really broken. In the sideboard, we have Shelldock Isle plus Emrakul the Aeon's Torn versus control decks, but also decks that might overload on removal for Laboratory Maniac. Other than that, it's pretty typical stuff that you might have seen in the time in the sideboard. Lion's Eye Diamond Dredge. So this is built like the modern Dredge decks, and by modern, I mean 2025 to 2026 Lion's Eye Diamond Dredge. And you have to give credit to, and I'm going to mispronounce their name, people always say it differently and I don't actually know it's correct, but Mafuz Van Gogh, the Dredge expert. And they sort of realized that you could just play Scalding Tarns, islands, and mountains, like basic lands, along with dual lands in your deck, and you didn't have to play City of Brass, Gemstone Mine, all those things. And when you have real lands in your deck, you get to play Anger. That's right, you get to play Anger, which gives all of your zombie tokens from Bridge from Below haste, and you don't need to play a dedicated win condition anymore. So because of that, we're only playing a single copy of Dread Return, which could make a really big Golgari Grave Troll, but more often than not, it's going to grab Sphinx of Lost Truths, which is probably the best Dread Return target in 2017. So that's what we're going to be doing here. And, I mean, in the sideboard, you lose into the Flood Maw, but you just play Chain of Vapor. For the most part, this deck existed the whole time, but it took almost a full decade for somebody to figure it out, which is why I thought it might be fun to play today. Dimir Reanimator. This is built more like the decks of the previous handful of years than the Reanimator decks from a decade ago. Yes, back then there was a lot of Rakdos, but people still played Dimir, but it was more... they were still playing Dark Rituals, and they'd have a bunch of one-of and tomb targets, for example. But I think over the last handful of years, we realized you just needed one really good fatty, like this Griselbrand, and then playing a slightly more controlling role, which is why I have 4 copies of Daze, which you didn't always see in deck lists a decade ago. I even considered not playing Lotus Petal, but I think if you're going to play a Tidespout Tyrant, you probably want some number of Lotus Petal just to make sure that you can trigger this. So I ended up going back to Lotus Petal, but the real upgrade, in my opinion, is the Red Splash for Stronghold Gambit. So we're playing one Volcanic Island and a single Badland, so that way we have 8 show and tell effects to put our large creatures onto the battlefield. And then if you're into memes, there's even an Inkwell Leviathan, because, you know, that card has a big reason that Entomb got to live a little bit longer. But we are, in fact, playing Inkwell Leviathan today. And then the final deck is Bug Depths or Rainbow Depths. A shout out to Negator77, a good friend of mine. Tom Hepp, aka Negator77, had one of the best trophy runs of all time. I believe their final trophy count at the end of the season was 68 trophies. They played 1 league a day and 5-0'd a lot of them with this deck. And here's the thing. This deck existed the whole time, but it took almost 3 years for people to find out that you could play Brainstorm in a Dark Depths deck and then splashing Flusterstorm in the sideboard, because these decks were always high variance. And Tom realized with Brainstorm, you could just take that away. So there's no Elvish Spirit Guide, there's no Lotus Petals. Instead, you have Mox Diamond and then Brainstorm for consistency. And I know it's not like this crazy thing, but Tom really led the way for this innovation of Turbo Depths or Bug Depths, whatever you would like to call it. And I wanted to give Tom a shout out today and play his deck. So that's what we're doing. I'll be battling Brian with these 5 decks versus Brian's 5 decks. I have no idea what they are. I don't believe we're going to tell each other. We're just going to go in blind and see what the matchup is and figure it out on the fly. So hopefully you enjoy it. Thank you to Will for the donation deck and continuing the series. I hope you all enjoy. Like, comment, subscribe, all that great stuff. But I'm going to hop on into match number 1 now. I'll see you there. If you enjoyed this video, make sure to leave a like, comment, and subscribe. You can also show your support by becoming a member of this channel. You get sweet perks such as badges, emotes, early access to videos, exclusive members-only content, and access to our members Discord section. As you increase the tiers, there are other rewards such as shop discounts, sideboard guides, and even free donation decks. Click the join button down below to find out more. We also have other ways you can support us, like theepicstorm.com/shop or submitting a donation deck via theepicstorm.com/donation decks. That's enough for now. Let's play some Magic. Match number 1, we've won the die roll versus my podcast co-host BoshNRoll. Go check out the Eternal Glory podcast. And we've opened up a hand with Force of Will blue card, personal tutor for Doomsday, and a way to go cycle into the pile. We're keeping this. All right, Misty Rainforest. Let's go. I'm excited. 2017 Legacy. Personal tutor. We'll grab a Doomsday. Pass the turn. The spice is on, Brian. The spice is on. Laboratory Maniac, baby. Brian plays a Polluted Delta. Gitaxian Probe. Fetches with the Polluted Delta. Delver of Secrets. Okay, so it's Grixis Delver. Brian actually made top 8 of Eternal Weekend 2017 with Grixis Delver. We draw the Doomsday. I'll play Brainstorm. We found Thoughtseize. Love that. I did not find a blue card, though. We're going to get rid of the Cavern of Souls and Cabal Therapy. I will fetch. We'll grab another Underground Sea and Thoughtseize. Brian has double Thoughtseize. No way. Brutal. Oh, wow. I think I might have just lost. We'll take 1. I have to hope to cycle Force of Will into a blue card. Protect the Doomsday and for my Doomsday to resolve. Delver does not flip. Brian uses the Gitaxian Probe. I guess I could have, like, if I had known that Brian was sitting on double Thoughtseize, I could have held the Brainstorm to protect, but I wasn't expecting double Thoughtseize. Or if he saw, I guess I didn't have Doomsday in my hand, so it makes sense why he would hold. I have to try to cycle into a blue card here. And we do. I will Force of Will. You could have pondered first. So did you draw Daze? No. Okay. And now another Delver of Secrets. So if Delver transforms, I'm dead. So I have to hope that Delvers don't transform. I mean, I guess that's what we're doing here. Doomsday. Alright, Delver of Secrets, don't transform. We need Laboratory Maniac. Where we want Predict. Unearth. So I'm going to be drawing Predict. I'll mill Laboratory Maniac. And then I'll draw Unearth plus... I actually need a another card here. So I think I'm supposed to grab maybe another Edge of Autumn. I actually lose to a Wasteland too. So let's just think this through. So if I draw Edge of Autumn for turn, cast Predict, mill Laboratory Maniac, and I would draw Edge of Autumn Unearth. So I lose to a Daze, I lose to a Wasteland, I lose to the Delvers flipping. I lose to everything here. But this is what we have to do in order to win, and we're going to take our chance. So Edge of Autumn on the bottom, Unearth, Laboratory Maniac, Predict, Edge of Autumn. All right, Brian, please don't do anything. Like, absolutely nothing. Just maybe even forget to attack. Like, just do nothing. All right, moment of truth, Delver Secrets. And it transforms. Brutal. Okay, so we lose. Bummer. Okay, so we might want Fatal Push here versus the creature deck. Maybe board out a Street Wraith. Maybe one Edge of Autumn. I definitely want Duress. Maybe Flusterstorm. Baleful Strix. I don't know if you want Shelldock Emrakul or not. We did see Fatal Push. So maybe we do want Shelldock Emrakul. It's just weak versus Wasteland. I'm at 68 cards. So you're supposed to board out Personal Tutors in grindy matchups like this. And then I know that some people even just board out Force of Will. And they say, you know what, I have Duress, Cabal Therapy, and Flusterstorms, and I don't want the card disadvantage. So we're going to try that. I don't know if it's correct. We probably don't need Lion's Eye Diamond. We're trying to play a slower game here. Maybe I'll board out one Lotus Petal. Let's try this. On the play. Keep. Unearth gets back Baleful Strix. Let's go. We'll play Scalding Tarn and pass. I could fire off the Gitaxian Probe, but I'm not going to be doing much with it anyway. So I'd rather hold it for a pivotal turn. Misty Rainforest. Brian uses his Gitaxian Probe. Fetches with Misty Rainforest. Thoughtseize. Sure. Takes my Gitaxian Probe. We'll play Polluted Delta, play the Lotus Petal. And I think I'm just going to cast Baleful Strix here, and I'm going to get basic lands. I want to be a little bit more resilient to Wasteland. Play the Baleful Strix. Trigger. Ooh, okay. I like how things are shaping up. Now we need a discard spell. Polluted Delta. Hymn to Torok. That's not cool. Come on. Come on. Ponder. We'll cast the Ponder. 5 cards in Brian's hand. I don't think I want any of these. We'll shuffle. Daze is a little late here. Swing. Another Gitaxian Probe. Brian is down to 11. Brainstorm. Polluted Delta. 5 cards in hand. Duress. Let's play the Duress. Invasive Surgery. Sure. That's spicy. It's hard to hate on Invasive Surgery. We'll swing with the Baleful Strix. Tropical Island. Okay. Or Deathray Shaman, most likely. Land number 4. Delver Secrets. Another Hymn to Torok. No, this is going to be Tombstalker. It's going to be Tombstalker. Here it comes. There it is. Tombstalker. Uh-oh. 2 cards left in Brian's hand. Underground Sea. Okay, I'm going to attempt a Doomsday here. I need this to resolve. Brian has Force of Will Flusterstorm. Wow. I think we just lost. Okay, pass. Delver Secrets. Flips over to Daze. So I guess the one upside here is if Brian attacks, I block, and then I unearth on the Baleful Strix again. So my Baleful Strix is actually holding off 2 creatures here. We drew another Daze, we'll pass. Ponder, we'll play that. 2 cards in Brian's hand. I don't think I want any of these. We'll shuffle. Flooded Strand, we'll play it and pass. So now Doomsday would be a live draw again. Land number 5 for Brian. These Dazes are beginning to rot in my hand. What am I to Brainstorm? Speaking of the devil, we'll play it. Alright, so we'll get rid of 1 Emrakul the Aeon's Torn and Daze. We'll fetch and play another Baleful Strix. Trigger, pass. Brian spends mana for a Gitaxian Probe. I wonder if I'm supposed to attack now with a Baleful Strix. Let's play a Duress. Brian plays Daze. We'll pay the 1. 2 lands. Okay. I am the beatdown. Hear me roar. Get in there. We will pass the turn. Brian plays one of the 2 Misty Rainforests. Drew another land. Let's play Brainstorm. Laboratory Maniac. Known beater. So I think we're supposed to try to hide the Unearth from like a Hymn to Torok off the top. So I will play Laboratory Maniac here. Like I said, known beater. And we'll get in there. Brian down to 6. Attack with another Baleful Strix. I will pass the turn. Vendilion Click. Okay. Targeting me. But I hid my Unearth. Ha ha ha. Alright, so Brian put our Brainstorm on the bottom. We draw the Unearth. Still does not attack. I would like to spend mana for a Gitaxian Probe. Blusterstorm, Underground Sea, Misty Rainforest. We'll get in there. Brian goes to 4. We will pass. Another Delver of Secrets. I don't love that. We draw our own Flusterstorm. Swing. See if I can put Brian down to 3. I would love a third Baleful Strix. I know there's only 3, but I would like the third one. Delver of Secrets transforms to Daze. Brian will fetch it away down to 2. Plays a Deathray Shaman. That's not good for me. That's actually really bad for me, because Brian can start gaining life. Street Wraith. Oh my. Oh my. Is Street Wraith lethal? Dark Ritual. Cast Street Wraith. And I can swing with 2 copies of Baleful Strix, so that way Brian has to block at least 1. Is that crazy? We know that Brian has a Fluster. So I could... He'd have 2 open mana. No creatures in the graveyard. Let's say Brian swung out next turn. 3, 6, 11, 14, 16. I'd go to 1, which isn't even lethal. I just pass here. No blocks. Nice. We've stolen game number 2. The one of Street Wraith going beat down for the win. Seeing how grindy the matchup is, I don't know if I want the Lotus Petal in my piles. Maybe that's silly. I'm just trying to think if I'd rather have literally anything else in my sideboard. It'd probably be like the second Street Wraith, but maybe that's just bias in that I should want the Lotus Petal. We're going to just keep it how it was. This hand is great. We will keep Polluted Delta into Deathray Shaman. Don't love that. Cabal Therapy. Let's Gitaxian Probe. I will go to 18. Force of Will, Thoughtseize, Ponder, Tombstalker, Snapcaster Mage. I'll grab Underground Sea, and we'll play Cabal Therapy. I think I'm going to name Thoughtseize, because I want this Brainstorm to resolve, and we'll pass the turn. Brainstorm. Good draw. Uses the Deathray Shaman. Thoughtseize. Let's Daze and try to see if we can get Brian to force it. And Brian does, exiling Vendilion Click. Okay. 2 cards remain. Takes my Brainstorm. We'll play the Polluted Delta to avoid Wasteland and pass. Baleful Strix is actually a good draw here, because if Brian has Tombstalker this turn, it gives me a way to play around it. Ponder resolves, and it looks like Brian is just passing here. Doomsday. Interesting. Okay, I think I'm going to try the Baleful Strix. If Brian drew a Daze, he drew a Daze. Resolves. Cavern of Souls, not really what I wanted here. There's a Wasteland. That's going to keep me off the Doomsday. Exiles my Cabal Therapy. Okay. Doesn't use the Wasteland. I mean, I can try to resolve Doomsday right now. 3 cards in hand. Is it crazy? It might be. Let's try Doomsday. Brian has Force of Will. Okay. Yeah, that'll happen. Get in there. Night's Whisper. You got it. Another Wasteland. That actually hurts quite a bit, because that could cut me off blue mana. Another Doomsday. Let's ponder. And there is a Predict, but I think I want the Polluted Delta. I can try to put Probe on the bottom, Predict Delta, play the Delta, and now we'll just attack and pass. Brian is at 11. So if I Daze this, I can guarantee draw 2 cards. Is that worth it, though? I feel like it might be. Trading this Daze for literally anything else. Plays another Underground Sea. We'll play Underground Sea, and let's just predict now. We'll name Gitaxian Probe since we put it there off Ponder. Double Dark Ritual. So as much as I would love to just jam Dark Ritual into Doomsday, we have a Flusterstorm. I'm supposed to try to be a little bit more disciplined here. We'll swing. Pass the turn. Brian eats my Predict. So that shuts off the Predict pile, so I'm at 12 now. Gitaxian Probe. And now a Ponder. Destroys my Underground Sea. 3 cards in Brian's hand. Lotus Petal. So I'm just trying to think here. If I play Doomsday, I'm going to go to 6. Brian end steps Deathray Shaman. and then can main phase Deathray Shaman. That would put me to 2. I draw, and I'd have to win from 2 life. So it's possible. It's just, I'm going to be at 2 life. So I could try to build the Emrakul pile and put a Fatal Push in there. That's another possibility. So we'll play Cavern of Souls. I'll name, I believe it, Laboratory Maniac is a wizard. We'll play the Lotus Petal, Dark Ritual, and Doomsday. Okay, so we want Laboratory Maniac. I think I would like Fatal Push, Emrakul the Aeon's Torn, Shelldock Isle, and then a fetchable like the basic island. Is this crazy? Because this is slow. I would lose to another Deathrite Shaman. I'm just wondering if this is too insane. So I would need to draw... Like, do I even put the Laboratory Maniac in there? Like, what if instead... I'm just talking out loud here. What if instead I put in a Brainstorm? And then I Brainstorm, and I draw Fatal Push, Shelldock, and then I put Emrakul underneath the Shelldock Isle. But then I lose to another Wasteland, and Brian's played 2. So do I want the insurance of the Laboratory Maniac? And it looks like in hindsight, maybe I should have fetched first, but I was thinking that I would help empty my deck by keeping an island in the deck, but maybe that was just wrong. Magic is a tough, tough game. So what if instead we just don't do any of this? What if instead I just build a Laboratory Maniac pile? What does that look like? We probably need the Edge of Autumn. Can I actually empty my deck? I don't know if I can. No, I don't think I can empty my deck, so I need to do the other win. Alright, so Brainstorm, Emrakul, Fatal Push, Island, Shelldock Isle. Okay. This is what I'm going with. Island on the bottom, Emrakul, Shelldock Isle, Fatal Push, Brainstorm. Pass. Misty Rainforest. Brian has 3 cards still. I think if he had a Wasteland, he would have fired it off on the Cavern. We'll fetch. I'm at 3. Brainstorm. Okay, so now we put back Dark Ritual, Emrakul. And now we'll attempt to Fatal Push the Deathrite Shaman. We don't need to show Brian that the plan is to use Shelldock Isle. Brian is going to fetch in response. I wonder if this is Vendilion Click. Brian dazes. Interesting. So if I pay the 1, and then Brian has another daze, my Fluster... Okay, we'll just pay the 1. I think he's just going to activate the Deathrite. Another daze. You dirty dog. We'll pay. Brian uses the Deathrite. I'm at 1. We'll play Shelldock Isle. Select Emrakul the Aeon's Torn. Okay. Brian, I believe, has 2 lands in hand. Or it might be 1 because I think he paid for one of the dazes. We're looking to fade 2 copies of Wasteland here. And we did. I think we've got it. Oh no! Oh no, I'm an idiot. I don't have another card to attack with. Oh no! I messed it up. I don't have another turn. I messed it up. This deck is so tough. I deck myself. No! Oh, I wonder what I could have done differently. I think I had to fetch first. That was insane. So I lose the first match. That was really tough. I felt like I played it relatively well up until the Doomsday pile. A better player would have won that, but I'm not a Doomsday expert. I'm just a Doomsday enjoyer. And we start this 0-1.
Building a new deck usually means getting hit with a dozen different shipping fees from a dozen different sellers. It adds up fast, and honestly, it's the worst part of buying cards. That's why I switched to Card Trader Zero. You shop their global marketplace, but instead of having every seller ship to you, they ship to Card Trader's hub first. Card Trader then packs everything into a single shipment for you, and it saves a small fortune on shipping fees. This package from Card Trader just arrived. These are 4 Dark Rituals that came from 4 different sellers, but they all arrived in 1 envelope, and every card was quality checked by the Card Trader team before it hit my door. Check out the link in the description to try Card Trader Zero's optimizer for yourself. Stop paying for multiple shipments and get just 1.
We're on the draw for the second match versus Brian Coval, aka BoshNRoll. And I know that this hand does not have a Dredger, but I'm going to keep it. I think Island into Lion's Eye Diamond, Brian is going to think that this is Storm, and just turn 1 Diamond resolving is huge for me. The 4th Careful Study, let's go. Lion's Eye Diamond. And turns out we're not on Storm, it's Dredge. We hit the Dredger. Goodbye to Stinkweed Imp and Bridge from Below. Pass the turn. Another basic Swamp. This Pox? Hymn to Torok hits Anger and my Flooded Strand. That actually hurts quite a bit here. I needed that Flooded Strand. Will Dredge the Stinkweed Imp. It's a Narcomoeba. Always yes. I did not hit another Dredger. So I think I'll actually play Careful Study and try to hit my land. Did I hit another Dredger? Oh, I did. I'm just blind. Let's pop out the graveyard. Maybe that will make this a little easier for me. And then we'll move this down here. I'm just trying to make it so we can actually see everything. I don't know if there's a good place for this. Maybe over on the right side of the screen. Okay. Let's dredge the Stinkweed Imp, I guess. I hit a Cephaloid Coliseum. That's pretty good. Okay. I'll play the Cephaloid Coliseum. The thing is, I can't win this turn, but I could just make a lot of power. I think I'm going to keep the Cephaloid Coliseum in play, and we'll flashback Faithless Looting. No, I should Careful Study then if that's the goal. We'll play Careful Study. We'll dredge the Golgari Grave Troll, discard, one Cabal Therapy. We'll sacrifice Lion's Eye Diamond for red, flashback Faithless Looting. We'll dredge a Golgari Grave Troll, and another Golgari Grave Troll, discard. And now we will Cabal Therapy target Brian, sacrifice one of my 4 copies of Narcomoeba, Bridge from Below triggers. Okay, and I think I'm going to name Pernicious Deed, because I do know that's a card Brian loves, and it could be in a Pock-style deck. And Brian concedes. Nice. So, many of you probably have not seen it, but years ago there was something called Legacy Premier League, and in that event, I never played the Epic Storm. I just played other decks the whole time. And in one of the brackets, I actually played Dredge and went pretty well with Dredge. It's a deck that I think is, fun. And it was probably around this time, around 2017. I think it might have been a little bit later, but same ballpark. We're going to want Chain of Vapor for Leyline of the Void, I think. Maybe one Ashen Rider. We'll get rid of the Sphinx of the Lost Truths. We might want Leyline of Sanctity, because that will stop Hymnotorok, but also Nile Spellbomb. Things like that. And I think we just try to be less all-in, so we're going to get rid of Breakthrough here, if it will allow me to do it. Magic Online being like, no, Bryant, you cannot sideboard out Breakthrough. Not allowed. Come on, here we go. 63 cards still. I wonder if it's crazy to just board down on Lion's Eye Diamond. Just accept that I'm not going to be as fast in the post-board games. And then, you can't board out of Therapy, but I'm looking for one more card. I wonder if it's insane to do the Anger. We probably want the Anger. A Thug? Let's try this. This seems solid. I mean, it doesn't have a Leyline of Sanctity or a Chain of Vapor, but I think it's fine. Maybe that's crazy. Brian mulligans. I'm going to keep. If he's mulliganing to Leyline of the Void, he's earned it. 5 cards, no Leyline. Swamp, pass. Obviously, we draw Narcomoeba. What else would I draw in this godforsaken deck? We'll grab our basic island and Careful Study. Discard Icarid and Dread Return. Pass. It is Pock, so that confirms it. Into Dark Confidant. Icarid. We'll draw for turn. Another Cephaloid Coliseum. I'll play Careful Study. We'll discard Cabal Therapy and Leyline of Sanctity. Play Volcanic Island. Faithless Looting. And there's our Dredger. Alright, goodbye Narcomoeba and Stinkweed Imp. Pass the turn. Our Confidant reveals an Extirpate. No! Why are you like this? Urborg Tomb of Yawgmoth, a Hymnotorok. Okay. Is Brian going to take my Stinkweed Imp? I will say no, draw. We'll dredge. It's 2 Narcomoebas. Extirpate on Narcomoeba. Okay. I'll play Cephaloid Coliseum. I could just flashback Faithless Looting here. Maybe that's the play, and just be less all-in. We'll flashback Faithless Looting. Dredge. Discard Stinkweed Imp. Pass. No Bridge from Below yet. Brian revealed a Snow-Covered Swamp. 3 cards still in hand. Another Dark Confidant. Robert is beating down on the table. I go 215. In my upkeep, let's use Cephaloid Coliseum. Target myself. Dredge, and Dredge. Discard all 3 copies of Stinkweed Imp. Icarid triggers. Another Extirpate. Brian Coval. What are you doing? Alright, so it seems like I've boarded wrong for the matchup. We'll take a draw. I don't think I'm going to dredge. No way, I drew the Anger. You gotta be kidding me. Ah, brutal. We'll play the land. Pass the turn. Reveal Swamp and Swamp. Brian animates the Mishra's Factory. I'll take 6 here down to 9. Honestly, I think I need to just start dredging Stinkweed Imp and casting them as blockers. Dark Ritual, Nether Spirit. Okay. End step will bounce the Nether Spirit. So, actually, would it be better to dredge the Golgari Grave Troll? It might be. I think it is. We'll dredge the Grave Troll here. And now I can play the Grave Troll. How many bridges are in my graveyard? Just the one? Maybe I should have done Stinkweed Imp. I was thinking that I wanted Golgari Grave Troll to put a creature on top, but maybe that's just foolish. Dark Confidant reveals another Dark Confidant and another Swamp. Brian not taking a whole lot of damage off of these. Curse Scroll. Alright, Brian, you earned it. I lose. We're going to go to the next one. Alright, so part of me thinks we probably don't need the Chain of Vapors. I could be wrong. I almost think that, like, the slow and steady route might just be the worst possible option here. We're going to get rid of the Leyline of Sanctities. What if instead I just bring in my own Unmasked to hit like Extirpate or whatever? Alright, I'm going to go back down to 2 diamond. And then let's bring back in the 3rd Golgari Thug. Let's try this. On the play for game 3. Keep. This hand is fantastic. Brian with a mulligan to 5. Alright, no Leyline of the Void. Unmask. We'll exile Icarid. I could have unmasked myself. Surgical and Extirpate. So am I supposed to just pray Brian doesn't draw a black source? We'll take Surgical Extraction. We'll fetch. Island. Careful Study. Discard Golgari Thug and Stinkweed Imp. Pass the turn. Alright, Brian, I'm asking you, do not draw Swamp. Thank you. We will now dredge Stinkweed Imp. We'll play Cephaloid Coliseum. Target myself. Stinkweed Imp. Golgari Grave Troll. Golgari Grave Troll. Discard Troll, Stinkweed Imp. Narcomoeba triggers. Cabal Therapy target you. Sacrifice the Narcomoeba. Trigger. We'll name Extirpate. Alright, Brian drew another Curse Scroll. And I think we just pass. Nice, we got it. Alright, so we are now 1-1.
Looking to make playing your favorite combo deck much easier? Look no further than the Epic Storm Mini Combo Pack, which is available at theepicstorm.com/shop for $15.99. This token combo pack comes with 84 double-sided tokens featuring classic Storm and Mana tokens with new inclusions such as our modern Ruby Storm package, but that's not all. Our token pack covers a variety of formats from Pauper to CDH with new tokens. Stop on by theepicstorm.com/shop and make an easy decision to elevate your combo game.
Match number 3 on the play, and we're playing the Epic Storm with Mox Opal. This is a really good hand. Keep. I mean, Rite of Flame would be good here too, because you could still Rite of Flame into the Burning Wish. But if Brian's on a blue deck, I can actually Brainstorm and then look for interaction. So we'll get Taxium Probe. I go to 18. Ooh, we got some spice over there. Okay, let's think about our options here. We'll view our sideboard. So, Storm is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then I'd have 4 mana, which isn't enough. I think I'm going to Brainstorm here and see what I can hit. Play the Mox Opal, and now we'll Brainstorm. Okay, so, I mean, it's more Storm. The question is, am I better off just waiting? Brian would have turn 1 Cunning Wish. So I don't think Empty the Warrens is good enough here. So like this could be a Diminishing Returns game. So Storm is 5, 6, 7, 8. But I have 16 goblins. If Brian goes Ancient Tomb, Cunning Wish, and then I attack, Brian would need another mana source in order to cast like anything else on the following turn. Is Empty the Warrens good enough here? Storm 6, 7, 8. I'd have 6 mana. The Dark Petition doesn't help me because I'm a mana short of the main deck Empty. So we're gambling on Empty the Warrens or Diminishing Returns. Diminishing Returns would have 2 mana floating versus Sneak and Show. They could also, or Brian could also turn 1 Sneak Attack. But like, I don't even lose to Emrakul. Gristlebrand wouldn't be able to draw cards. So the thing is, like, if Brian has an Echoing Truth, I could put him to 2. The question is, does Brian have an Echoing Truth for that Cunning Wish? And then he would also need to draw another mana. And then the Ancient Tomb would be cut off. I think you're actually supposed to Empty the Warrens here, but it's going to feel bad when I lose. Like, I think you have better odds of Empty winning than Diminishing Returns with 2 floating mana versus a blue deck. This is also a spot where if we had a sideboard Infernal Tutor, it'd be a lot better. because sideboard Infernal Tutor could allow me to grab the main deck empty. Okay. Also just hoping that I draw Cabal Therapy. Lotus Petal into Ponder. If Brian keeps this, it's not good for me. There was a shuffle. I would just like to draw Cabal Therapy. I don't think that's an unrealistic ask. I know there's only 3 of them in the deck. Mathematically speaking, I shouldn't draw one. But I think it'd be really, really good for the content. So, deck, give me Cabal Therapy. Ancient Tomb, Lotus Petal. Okay. That is the wrong 1 mana black spell. Ah, Brian concedes. Nice. Alright, so we'll bring in Xanid Swarm and my Bayou. Don't need the basic island here. Empty in the main deck probably isn't good enough. 62 cards now. I wonder if this is a matchup where I'm allowed to board out a few copies of Ponder just because it's so fast. Submit. This deck, like this current configuration, if I can get Ad Nauseam on the stack, this would be a very good Ad Nauseam deck. So when my Burning Wish was on the stack game 1, I couldn't help but think how much better current TES is. Not because Probe isn't great or anything. Like, trust me, I would take a Taxing Probe on a heartbeat. But because I had Burning Wish with 6 floating mana, I was like, I can't win the game. You only need 4 mana now to win the game. You just grab Beseech Dimir and a Gaia's Will, and you can probably close your eyes and win. But 6 mana here with Dark Petition doesn't do anything. Oh, I'm wrong. Oh no. I actually had the main deck empty. I just realized. I could have gone Dark Petition. For some reason in my head, I was like, oh, I cast Dark Petition with no mana floating, and I have 3 left. No. I could have done Dark Petition into the main deck empty, and that would have given me 2 more. I just realized. Okay, so I messed up a little bit. Thankfully, it didn't matter, but I realized it a few minutes later. Volcanic Island, Ponder. Oh, I would have felt real bad about that if I had lost. But I could have gone Dark Petition into the main deck empty, and that would have been the best line. From Mox, we'll start off with... Let's play our land. I don't want to get dazed. Gitaxian Probe. No interaction. Okay, so let's imprint the Ponder and try to find lines I diamond off this Brainstorm. Actually, could I use Brainstorm? So Ponder digs the deepest, but Brainstorm could get rid of the Burning Wish that's stopping me from being Hellbent. So I think the answer is yes, I do get rid of Ponder, even though Ponder digs the deepest for lines I diamond. And then I'll Brainstorm. Xanid Swarm. Okay. So we'll get rid of Burning Wish and Infernal Tutor. And now I'll fetch out Bayou and play Xanid Swarm. Pass. Brainstorm from Mr. BoshNRoll. Scalding Tarn. Fetches. And a Brainstorm. I would like to draw Ad Nauseam. And then after Ad Nauseam, lines I diamond. Another Brainstorm. We'll swing. Trigger. My problem is I can't get Hellbent here. I think you're supposed to Ponder in this spot, because I'm still a few mana short, so I need to hit Diamond. That is not good enough. We're going to shuffle. Alright, I might be dead here. Show and Tell, Omniscience, and a Gristlebrand kills me. Fetches. Yep, I'm dead. I just couldn't draw the mana. Alright, game 3. No changes. I'm going to send it back. It also would have been okay if I would have hit discard spells, but I didn't draw those either. So it was sort of like a perfect storm of me losing. Game 3 on the play. I mean, I don't love the double Chrome Mox here. I think we can do better. Mulligan. This is not bad. We'll keep bottom the Chrome Mox. Gitaxian Probe. We'll play Badlands and Cabal Therapy on Show and Tell. Pass the turn. Brian plays his own Gitaxian Probe. Basic Island. Lines at Diamond. We'll play Bayou and Lines at Diamond. Pass the turn. I just think I want this in play so it doesn't get countered. Maybe that's foolish and I should hold it for Storm. I don't know. Scalding Tarn. Lotus Petal. So now we know one of the drawn cards. 5 cards remain. Xanid Swarm. Let's go. Play Duress. We'll pay for Spell Pierce. Duress. Gristlebrand and nothing. Okay. Please don't draw it, Brian. Plays a land. I'm going to Brainstorm here. It could be risky if I don't hit, and I don't. Ah, bummer. We're locked. So, odds are not looking very good right now. Oh, hold on. I hit F6 too fast. I think maybe I was supposed to flash back the Cabal Therapy and hit the Gristlebrand. If I get another turn, I'll do it. I wasn't able to undo my auto yield. We will attack. I think I just have to play the Cabal Therapy. We'll name Gristlebrand. And there's an Emrakul. Okay. Pass the turn. Oh, Brian drew sneak attack. Ah. Alright, so it looks like we're going to lose match number 3. And I'm punished for playing out the diamond. I mostly just want to see my next few cards to know if I had held the brainstorm didn't matter. The sneak attack hiding underneath my sideboard, so here it is. We'll play Polluted Delta, pass the turn. So I would have been able to, if I had waited one turn, I could have fetched. Because I would have hit the fetch land to shuffle. I guess I'll go to 1. We'll grab Underground Sea and then play Cabal Therapy. We'll name Spell Pierce. Another sneak attack. Pass. So you're saying there's a chance. 4 cards in Brian's hand. And Brian drew a creature. Okay. So maybe I was a little too impatient with that brainstorm and it cost me. I was trying to not give Brian more time on Sneak and Show, but ultimately I ended up losing anyway. So we are now 1-2. Moxfield.com is the easiest way to build a Magic deck online. They support over 30 formats, including Legacy and many other Eternal formats. There are so many options to view decks the way that you want, from text view to individual cards, mana value, and even card price. There's also light mode and dark mode. My personal favorite feature is card tags. This way you can sort cards by function. Moxfield supports collection tracking, Scryfall search, decklist feedback, and so much more. Follow me on Moxfield.com so you can stay updated on all of my decks. Let's try to get back to even. We're on the draw. I will keep. No idea what Brian is playing. Volcanic Island, sure. We draw a basic Island Ponder. I think we keep this. Animate Dead on the bottom. Elishnorn and Ponder. Pass. So if Brian taps out here, I could go Thoughtseize myself. Animate Dead with Daze backup. I think that might be the line. Batterskull, okay. And I even have another Animate Dead to try again next turn in case Brian wins the fight. We'll play the Lotus Petal. Thoughtseize targeting myself. I will Daze the Force of Will. Thoughtseize. Discard the Elishnorn. And Animate Dead. This will at the bare minimum kill the Stoneforge Mystic. Pass. Land number 3. Alright, Brian, do you have Swords to Plowshares? Or are you okay just taking 3 off a sad little pathetic creature? We'll play Polluted Delta, pass Ponder. I think I'll keep the Force of Will. Pass. Land number 4. We faded a Jace the Mind Sculptor there. We'll play Underground Sea. Go to combat. Get in there. Pass the turn. Oh, I just realized I could have animated Dead on the Stoneforge Mystic. That would have been funny. Jace the Mind Sculptor. I will attempt a Force of Will. 3 cards left in Brian's hand. Land number 4. Don't love that. We'll swing. I think I'm going to just pass here. Brian draws Brainstorm. I find it hard to believe that Brian has not found a Swords to Plowshares by now. There it is. Also, come on. You could do better than that. Come on. Alright, so Elishnorn has gone into exile. I need to draw Entomb. What about another land? We will pass. This is a spot where I'm definitely missing Surveil lands. There comes Batterskull. We'll fetch. Grab another Underground Sea, take a draw. Daze, not really what I wanted here. Brian fetches. Okay. I go to 15. You draw Gristlebrand. I have no way of getting it to the graveyard, though, so I must pass. Another attack, I go to 11. Brian has a Brainstorm. 3 cards still in hand. I finally draw a Brainstorm, let's play it. But I did not hit a discard outlet. I'll get rid of land and a Lotus Petal. Pass the turn. Brian fetches. Snapcaster Mage. Am I supposed to force this? I think so. So hear me out. If I force this, and then Brian has nothing, I can animate Dead on the Snapcaster Mage into Careful Study and try to draw into another way to reanimate Gristlebrand. So I go to 6. Brian has another land. That's a lot of lands. True Name Nemesis. I don't know if I can beat that. Oh, wow. Yeah, I can't be True Name Nemesis because you just equip the Batterskull to it. I think I'm dead. My Tidespout Tyrant is in exile. So is my Elishnorn. I can't win. Insane. I'm still going to animate Dead on the Snapcaster because I want to see what I would have hit. Oh, I don't have a Careful Study in there. Alright, this line never worked to begin with. I guess I can target Brainstorm. Play Brainstorm. Okay. We lose game number 1. Not the matchup I would have liked. Also, I don't know if I want to do the whole sideboard juke here. I think we definitely want Collective Brutality versus like the Stoneforge Mystic deck that likely has sideboard Containment Priest. I think Containment Priest was around by then. I do know that maybe I'm wrong. I think I want the Inkwell Leviathan. I think I kind of want to get bored out Lotus Petals. It might seem a little crazy, but this matchup isn't about speed. Like, Daze felt pretty embarrassing. Like, what if I just board out Dazes? Because, like, Brian just has a million basic lands. And then I'll board out one Griselbrand. Let's try this. Game 2 on the play. We will keep. And I think I'm going to grab a basic island here. In case Brian has, like, back to basics or something. We'll shuffle. We don't need any of those. Draw the worst creature for the matchup. I mean, I think you're supposed to leave it in due to True Name Nemesis, but it's by far the worst creature for the matchup. Scalding Tarn, pass. Careful Study. I think I'd just like to ponder here. Keep this. Play Scalding Tarn and pass. Tundra. Do I want land 3? I don't think I do. So I will fetch. We'll grab Underground Sea. Well, I drew land number 3 anyway. Alright, I think I'm going to use Show and Tell as a bait spell here. I probably should have gotten the basic. What was I doing? Because if I get back to basics, I'm going to feel really dumb. I should have gotten the basic. Volcanic Island. Counter spell. Alright. Good old-fashioned counter target spell. Brian searching out Volcanic Island means there's probably not a back to basics in there. Scalding Tarn. Let's brainstorm. I can shuffle away this Elish Norn. There we go. And Animate Dead with the land. I think it's the land. I'll try and Entomb. Brian forces exiling Jace the Mind Sculptor. I will Force of Will back, exile Force of Will. I'm keeping the Careful Study because there's an Elish Norn on top of the deck in case Brian wins this fight. And Brian does win the fight. 2 cards remain. I'm going to play the Careful Study as a mill 2. Just put the Elish Norn to the graveyard. And we'll pass. Karakas. I don't like that. Iona. Not good anymore due to the Karakas. So Inkwell Leviathan is the card we want. What if Carmen was right the whole time? Oh no. They ponder. We need another Entomb here. I think I'll just pass. Karakas is too powerful. Fetches with Scalding Tarn. Snapcaster Mage. For a Ponder. Okay. So that probably means Brian has another interaction spell. If he's willing to not hold open Snapcaster Mage into counterspell. We'll play Brainstorm. I mean, I can put Iona to the graveyard, it just doesn't help me. So I'll put Iona plus Animate Dead on top and just pass. I think I just need to take some hits here from Snapcaster Mage and hopefully draw into something good. And if Brian overextends, like another Snapcaster Mage or something, Containment Priest. I cannot allow that to resolve or else I lose. Exile the Show and Tell. I guess I have 3 Collector Brutalities in the deck, so I don't flat out lose to it. Okay. Brian was definitely teched out for Reanimator. Holy moly. I should have selected this deck for another matchup. Well, Careful Study. Into nothing. Pass the turn. I don't even know why I'm holding Reanimates. I'm down to 9 life. This will knock me down to 5. I should have kept the Show and Tell instead of one of my Reanimates. It was dumb. Okay. Brian got me. Brutal. Mr. Coval, that was not very kind. I am now 1-3. The Gold Sabertooth times the Epic Storm collection has arrived with 3 full-size tokens showcasing the beloved Dark Ritual, CDH Rogsai, and Legacy of the Epic Storm for just $5. On the backs of these tokens, there's a place for my signature or a custom message. In addition to these sweet tokens, a friendly reminder that all orders that ship from theepicstorm.com also come with a signed Storm token from yours truly. The final match. Let's try to win this one so that way Brian doesn't 4-1 me. We will keep. Looted Delta will fetch. Grab Volcanic Island into, or I'm sorry, not Volcanic, Underground Sea into Thoughtseize. So this way on turn 2 I can Brainstorm plus fetch land. Another Sultai deck of sorts. We'll take the Force of Will, and then we'll pass. Wasteland. We'll play Bayou into Inquisition of Kozilek. Take the Hymn to Torok. Another Tombstalker. This is the same deck, Brian. This is the same exact deck. We said 5 unique decks. Utaxian Probe. I accidentally crossed off Tombstalker. That's my bad. I know that it's in there. Another Urborg. We'll play Thoughtseize. Take the Tombstalker. You can have an Abrupt Decay. Brian draws Ponder. Another Gitaxian Probe, Misty Rainforest, and Deathray Shaman. Okay. Step 1, a Brainstorm. That's a really good draw. Delver of Secrets. This is the same deck twice, Brian. You know, going against the rules here. And another Delver of Secrets. 1 card in hand. I think I'm going to take an extra draw before I Brainstorm, so that way I can look at another card deeper. We'll fetch, play the Brainstorm. We did not hit a Vampire Hexmage, but this should still work here. I actually only need... I don't think this matters. We'll play Mox Diamond, discard the Urborg, Thespian Stage, and then I think I'm supposed to just do it in my main phase. I would lose to, like, a Liliana, but if Brian, for some reason, drew Wasteland, copy the Dark Depths, we want to keep the copy, and now we'll pass. Don't transform. Maybe he set it up with the Brainstorm, actually. So he knew he was going to transform. The question is, does Deathrite plus Delver race me? I don't know. Let's play Duress, the land. I mean, I have to attack here. So, end step, Brian activates, I go to 12. And then Brian activates again on his turn, I go to 10. Delver has to stay back and block, so I think I'm winning the race right now. Could always change with a draw step. Is this a Tombstalker? No way. Does Tombstalker change the math? So, Brian attacks, I go to 9. End step, he activates, I go to 7. There's a chance that if he draws another blocker, I lose, because that would be exact. Brian, you lucky dog. Alright, I would like to draw Crop Rotation into Zajiri step. I think I knew that was there, actually. So end step, I go to 7. Untaps puts me to 2. So if Brian does another flying blocker, I lose. I'm at 7. No attack, so that means Brian's on defense. We'll play the Urborg. I guess I should Inquisition first. Take the Daze. Vampire Hexmage. Swing. So Brian can put me to 5. And I have the Abyss going at this point. He would need to draw multiple flying blockers in a row. And I have a creature for an Edict. Okay, we got there. I think we would probably want Abrupt Decay. Maybe the Flusterstorm, I'm not sure. We don't need Bojuka Bog. That can probably become the Ghost Quarter. Needle for Wasteland is pretty good here. I'm also not against Sylvan Safekeeper. But this is 68 cards, which is a lot. Flusterstorm is good versus Hymn to Torok. It's just a lot of cards coming in. I don't know if I can actually afford all of these. Maybe get rid of Stifle? I'm not so sure about that one. I wonder if it's crazy to get rid of Brainstorm here. Just try to be like more interactive. I'm sure Tom is going to watch this and then yell at me for boarding wrong. But this way I just have a high density to protect my combo. But maybe that doesn't even matter. Another thing is, traditionally, if you think of like the golden era of Modern or whatever, in Jund Mirrors, you would board out discard versus discard. Because you don't want to be drawing discard late in the game, you want to be drawing live spells. So maybe, as crazy as it is, maybe you're supposed to just take out discard spells. And then we'll bring back in Brainstorm. And then maybe even the Stifle. This seems nuts, but this is what I'm going to do. Keep Underground Sea into Ponder. We draw another Bayou. We'll play Polluted Delta and pass. Gitaxian Probe. And a Brainstorm. Brian plays the Verdant Catacomb and fetches. Tropical Island. Delver of Secrets. Into another land. Okay, we will pass the turn. Delver transforms, revealing Brainstorm. Ouch, I go to 17. Brainstorm happens. Wasteland. I still think I'm going to Brainstorm fetch here. We'll grab Underground Sea. Play the Brainstorm. Holy moly. Alright, get rid of one of the Bayous. Actually, we'll get rid of both. And then I'll fetch. We have 5 cards. We'll play Polluted Delta. I think I just passed the turn here. So then next turn I could theoretically Dark Depths plus Vampire Hexmage through a Daze. Misty Rainforest. I'm going to take care of the Insectile Elaboration. Try to buy myself some more time here. Tarmogoyf. Sylvan Scrying is the draw. We will play Vampire Hexmage. A Force of Will Exiling Daze. Play Thespian Stage. We'll fetch. Grab another Bayou. We'll play Sylvan Scrying and see if this resolves. We'll grab Wasteland. Pass. So if Brian fires off the Wasteland on my stage out of fear that I might waste him, that gives me the ability to go Vampire Hexmage into Dark Depths. Brainstorm, another Wasteland. Alright, I would like to draw Pithy Needle. I'm at 10. 2 cards in Brian's hand. Crop rotation. We'll play a Vampire Hexmage and a Wasteland. Pass. Another land. 2 cards remain. I'll take a hit here down to 6. Jace the Mind Sculptor. That's annoying. I don't know if I can beat the Jace. Maybe. Another crop rotation. We'll attack the Jace. Pass the turn. Jace brainstorms. Tarmogoyf will put me to 2. And now another Tarmogoyf. Alright, so let's think about the best way of doing this. If I go Vampire Hexmage on Dark Depths, Brian Wastelands, right? And then I think I'm actually supposed to just start here with a... Well, I guess that doesn't protect me from a bounce spell. Because I think I can beat the Wastelands with what's in play. So I Wasteland. In response, Brian goes after Dark Depths. I then Vampire Hexmage. He wastes again, and then I Thespian Stage. And then I have Crop Rotation into Zajiri Step. So I will Wasteland. So now I will copy the Dark Depths. We'll keep... Oh, I think he outplayed me here. I think Brian outplayed me. I didn't consider this. I was supposed to Hexmage on the other Dark Depths and respond. No, I don't think that works either. Okay. And now he wastes this one. Alright, so if Brian has a Daze, I lose. A Daze or another counter. Ah, brutal. And now I'm going to die to the Tarmogoyfs. So I can make a Merit Lodge, but Jace plus Tarmogoyf has me on lockdown. Well played. Okay, so I lose that one. I'm going to resubmit. I changed my mind. I boarded out Sylvan Scrying in Expedition map. Those cards seem very clunky, and I'm bringing back in some discard spells, so that way I know what I'm up against. Alright, the final game. I'm on the play. We will keep Misty Rainforest and pass. Underground Sea, Deathray Shaman. Alright, Dark Depths, let's see it. Needle. I think I'm going to wait on the Needle. Wasteland. There's Crop Rotation. Okay. Let's play Mox Diamond. Discard. And then we'll play a Needle. Brian fetches. Or I'm sorry, forces the Needle. I think I'm in a Flusterstorm here. Flusterstorm. And now Needle. We'll name Wasteland. Pass the turn. Brian uses the Deathrite Shaman. Fluted Delta. Delver of Secrets. Another Mox Diamond. Not a particularly good draw. We'll play the Vampire Hexmage. Pass back. We saw Spell Pierce last game, so I think I'm going to wait on the Crop Rotation so I don't lose to a Spell Pierce. Brian uses the Deathrite Shaman. Delver triggers. Reveals Spell Pierce, and Brian fetches away Spell Pierce. Another land. Ouch. Misty Rainforest. Life from the Loam. 2 cards in hand. 4 after the Life from the Loam. Another land that doesn't help me. Just pass the turn here. Brian exiles the Life from the Loam. So I could try to Crop Rotation right now, but then I lose to Jace the Mind Sculptor. So I don't want to do that. Another land. Those are the beats. At 7. I think I'm supposed to just try the Crop Rotation. Grab the Dark Depths. If Brian has like Abrupt Decay that beats me here. Another land. That's not very helpful. Nice. So I went 2 and 3, where arguably a smarter player would have gone 3 and 2, because I lost the Doomsday matchup sort of to myself. But that deck is incredibly tough to play. So I thought the Doomsday deck was really sweet. It's just my brain hurt playing it. It was such a good match. Like, I'm not even saying like I'm upset that I lost. Like, you lose in Magic, it happens. But I thought the match was really incredible. What a way to start off the video. I think someone better than me probably would have won it, but unfortunately that's not who I am. So I ended up losing. The Stoneblade matchup, like the way that the decks aligned, like Stoneblade versus Reanimator, I knew that was going to be tough. Winning with Dredge was pretty cool. The TES versus Sneak and Show match was really good too. I mean, that was just that was lost by a margin. If I had waited one more turn on the Brainstorm, maybe there's a chance, but that's not what happened, and I ended up losing. So I don't know. This was a lot of fun. I liked playing 5 different decks. I considered playing a fair deck, and I just didn't. I was looking at like a Miracles style deck, and then ultimately decided on playing Reanimator instead. But I say style because this is post top ban, so this would have been like Portent Miracles, for example. But this was a lot of fun. I'm about to hop on a call with Brian. Hopefully, you stick around and watch my conversations with him.
And we're here with the debrief from the final era, which is kind of a fake era because some of these decks may or may not have existed in their form in the era, but it was fun. How did it feel to play decks other than the Epic Store?
I liked not playing just TES the whole time. I did consider playing a fair deck, Brian. I started looking at like the Portent Miracle style decks, and then ultimately I couldn't figure out how to make them better, so I kind of gave up. Um, but I did look at that space.
I did spec on that throughout the entire league, where it was like, uh, obviously, I know you're going to play mostly combo, but I was wondering if you were going to go full Insano with like a Death and Taxes, or I know you did play Miracles. You at least had it built in the era when
Mm-hmm.
Top Miracles was the thing, so that's in the range to play. Um, a Deathrite Shaman Delver style deck, which I played two of in this league. I was kind of hoping you saved the best for last, and it was going to be a Deathrite Shaman, but you picked all good decks, and you did well for your combo brand.
So a small thing from my side: your first deck and your fifth deck looked exactly the same. I don't know from your side how they look because obviously I don't have your deck list, but I was like, this is the same deck, Brian. This is the same deck.
Right. So what happened, and I already explained this to my audience at the start, was at first when I had a lot of time and a lot of energy, I built a deck. Like I ported current day Dimir tempo back in time. And it was like, Murktide just becomes Tombstalker. We try to create Bowmaster plus Tamio in the aggregate with Deathrite Shaman and Liliana of the Last Hope. And like we try to create the cards that don't exist while playing parallels for the ones that do. And of course, Deathrite and Probe are just upgrades that are banned cards. I tried to do that. And then I had a couple decks that I tried to improve in other ways. And then a couple of my decks were just decks from the era straight up that I thought were already great. And then at the end, I got to HJ Godic's Eternal Weekend winning Bug Delver list. And I was like, one of the things we thought now is why didn't we just have a lot more probes and decks back then? So I added a bunch of probes to HJ's deck, which ended up being similar to the deck that I had built like 48 hours earlier. But that one is full bug for whatever that's worth. Like there's Sylvan libraries and abrupt decays and stuff, and the other one's just Dimir with a tropical island to turn on Deathrite.
Okay.
So they were closer than I would have liked if I had more time or energy to make it a perfect spread of decks, but they were different.
So when I was trying to select my decks, I tried to get like a pretty good range of decks, and I reached out to two of the best Doomsday players I know. I was like, hey, if you could rebuild Doomsday in 2017, how would you do it? And they're like, well, you wouldn't. It'd be terrible. I'm like, well, that's not what I'm asking you. Like, how would you
Right.
rebuild it? And they just wouldn't give me an answer. And I was like, okay, I'm just going to work on this, and then you can give me feedback. And they actually gave me the idea for the sideboard Shelldock Isle plus Emrakul that cost me the match, Brian, because I am not smart enough to play that deck. I mean, I'm close, but not quite good enough.
Yeah, that one was really tricky, and like you got me good with the Baleful Strix juke, and like all my removal was out of the deck. And even though like your win con is Lab Maniac, maybe the removal shouldn't be out of the deck, and there was a lot to try to figure out. And yeah, definitely one of the themes throughout all the matches today where I don't know what you've brought at all. So the idea of a metagame is preposterous. It's just five decks from your brain, what you felt like doing today. So like you lose all that context. And then I'm also 6 to 8 years removed from playing in this metagame at the time. So I might have recognized your Underground Sea deck in the last round as bug depths if that was anywhere near my radar, where I just ripped off a wasteland on turn one, where if I just don't do that, I win game one easily. So it's like I've also removed from that context. And then there's also the even if I have the context, who knows how you've built it today? Like it could be way better than I remember. There was a lot to try to take in for this silly little exercise that we did.
So going back to the remembering the era part, um, it's been so long since I've actually cast a Dark Petition. I was sitting there with Burning Wish in my hand and 6 mana, game one versus Snake and Show, and I was like, I can make 16 goblins, but if I Dark Petition, I'm a mana short. And then in the middle of sideboarding for game two, I realized I was never a mana short. Dark Petition doesn't cost 6; it costs 5. So I could have gone Dark Petition into the main deck, Empty the Warrens to put you to exactly 2, which would shut off the Ancient Tombs. Thankfully, you never found what you needed. But I was like,
Right.
oh, I potentially could have just cost myself there. And not remembering how Dark Petition works with my deck was a wake up call for me.
Yeah, Dark Petition was one that was hot for a while and then quickly invalidated, unfortunately. Even had a run in Vintage where there was a reason to really play that build of Storm over anything else you could do. But
Yeah.
yeah, that one's mostly forgotten to time.
And then another thing was, I was like, ooh, I'll try to like do the current deck building style of Dimir Reanimator, and then I'll bring that back. And I think out of your 5 decks, the way that it lined up, it was the worst possible matchup for Dimir Reanimator. I was just like, you got to be
Yes.
kidding me.
Well, you got me with Dredge into Mono Black Pox, so we both had some random matchup beats for sure.
Yeah. I was really worried about Leyline of the Void. So I boarded in 4 Chain of Vapors game 2, and after seeing Extirpate, I was like, is Brian crazy enough to play both Leyline of the Void and Extirpate? And I was like, I'll even 2 Chain of Vapors just to be safe. But then I was very fortunate that your drawing game 3 was not very good.
Yeah, well, my draw was fine, but you had unmasked to set it off and take the surgical, and then that cost me so much time. I didn't find the black for extirpate,
Mm-hmm.
and that like I'm pulling up the list on my Mox field right now because I want to get the name of this card right. This is actually a Reduke deck from 2019, though there are no cards that were not printed yet in 2015 in this deck, so it's still technically legal. And I did make one improvement from the deck I found because he has Withering Wisps in the sideboard, which is this ridiculous enchantment from Ice Age that reads end of turn, if there's no creatures in play, bury this. And then for a black, you can deal 1 to each creature and player. You can't spend more black per turn this way than the number of snow swamps you control. So it's like a slightly better pestilence for snow swamps. The list I found online had basic swamp in it, not snow swamps. So I did improve that deck, even though I mostly played it as is. But yeah, I think I would. And Reed's build actually had 1 extirpate, 1 surgical in the main, and then 1 more of each in the board. And when I saw you on Dredge, I was like, man, I wish I just randomly had a main deck surgical for his ass right now.
Yeah. I don't know if you remember this, but Julian Knab from Everyday Eternal used to do Legacy Premier League, which I did twice out of, I think they did it 4 or 5 times, but I did it twice. And the one that I won in the playoff bracket, I ran clean with Dredge. Like, no one expected me to play Dredge, and I did, and it just ran everyone over. So I was like, maybe I'll do that again. And it seemed pretty good for at least the matchup I had.
Yeah, it was a good call for sure. And I was impressed. Like, I wasn't sure what you were going to do. I knew you wanted to build your Mox Opal Epic Storm deck, which did look way better than without Mox Opal. So good job updating that one. And I honestly just kind of forgot all the other combo decks that there were at the time. Like, it didn't occur to me at all that you would register Doomsday, Prethos's Oracle. I was pretty confident Reanimator would be in your range, but Dredge and Depths, I didn't think about at all. Like, those decks are both so far removed from the legacy meta right now that didn't even occur to me.
You outplayed me so bad, like, so from my perspective, badly game 2. The Wasteland on stage, I just was not expecting, and I was like, oh, he didn't go after the Dark Depths. I was like, that like completely ruins my thought process here. And I was like, I kind of just like fell into a trap. So that was well done.
I'm glad you brought up that turn because we both fucked that game up. The in my head, one Wasteland covered Stage and Hexmage because like you can't take the counters off it a second time, but that it didn't occur to me like I got the sequencing messed up in my head. So when I Wasteland your stage there, if you Hexmage the depths,
Yes.
and I waste the
Yep.
depths, then you copy it with stage, you just win. And the whole, it was like 4 turns. I had the 2 wastelands in play, and I was like, yeah, I don't care about anything he's got. This is like a full checkmate. When it actually you had me checkmated, and I was just confidently monologuing. It's like, oh yeah, he needs something else here. He needs like another wasteland or a crop rotation, or like, he really needs to figure this out quick. When you actually just had me beat on board.
I realized it after I had copied, but
Right.
by then it was too late. And I actually had double crop rotation in my hand, and I think another Hex Mage. But the problem was you had lethal on board and a Jace, so
Right.
it was the perfect combination. But I thought the first match and the fifth match were very good.
Yes. Yeah. We had some really good matches, and then some. I mean, when you are locked to bring 5 combo decks, and I choose to bring a couple combo decks in my 5 decks as well, like if the combo decks work or don't work, they're unlikely to be good matches. That's just how combo usually comes. Like someone's going to get run over or they're going to get stuffed.
So if there was a sixth deck in the queue, I was going to bring Enchantress. I thought that would have
Ooh.
been a really good one, but it was high on my list of like almost in there. It was like Enchantress versus like Bug Depths. That was like my last pick. And I was like, I think Bug Depths is going to be a little bit more competitive. You tend to pick like fairly competitive decks. I was like, I don't want to 0-5 this. So if, maybe a worse player was battling me, I would have done Enchantress.
Fair enough. Yeah, one thing that really kind of stifled my creativity for this, I guess, is how hard it is to remember what cards exist in when you're doing something like this. You can filter Scryfall to be like cards that were legal in Legacy, or cards that are legal in Legacy, and actually I can't even get where I wanted. You could filter by cards that are legal in Legacy printed before 2019.
Mm-hmm.
You could do that, but that doesn't tell you what was legal in Legacy in that era. And it also doesn't filter out the unplayables. You're just going to get every Magic card that wasn't banned in Legacy at the time if you do that. So, like, and all of my heuristics and muscle memory of 8 years of deck building, where it's like, Sheoldred's Edict. We didn't have cards like that. Brazen Borrower, just these little glue pieces that you think about, even just in Undercity Sewers. All my fetching in this entire league was like, no reason to fetch now. That sucks. We're really spoiled with the quality of cards these days. Even, and this isn't even like the old days. This is just in recent memory.
I feel that way all the time now. Like trying to play these era battle videos, I'm like, I miss Surveillance. Like
Yeah.
they only recently existed, but it's like weird to go back because you're like, I don't like Magic before Surveillance anymore. Like they're just such a huge improvement to the game.
Yes. Those little optimizations. Yeah, it was a lot harder to even imagine what cards did exist at the time, and then realizing which ones we had and how bad they are. And I I am glad that I the era battles are over. I don't want to spend a lot more time doing this. Like I know a lot of people love thinking about closed bottle formats like pre-modern and old school and new school and postmodern, whatever else, classic legacy. There's all these ones that set a time frame. And while I do really enjoy playing pre-modern, I don't have a lot of appetite for brewing with things that are difficult to navigate through Scryfall to even figure out what cards I can use. So I'm glad we did this once, and I'm glad it's over.
Yeah, I feel you there. Do you have a favorite moment or anything like that about the leagues today?
Oh, I did call out your game one with Reanimator, how like you got to do your thing. You got like turn one, I mean, it might have been turn two, but I think it was turn one. Like Thoughtseize yourself, protect it with days, reanimate the monster, and it's fucking Eilishnorn. Like that was great. Like that was a show of what these decks actually looked like back then. And at one point, you forced me pitching Tidespout Tyrant. Like you actually had the Rogues Gallery of dummies, and it
Mm-hmm.
wasn't just like 3 attracts a 3 Archon of Cruelty, which things have kind of coalesced to now. So I did get to call out that as a really meaningful difference, even though you still had Entomb, you had Faithless Looting, you had all this stuff.
So, in doing my research for the deck list, so two parts here. One, typing in 2017 Dimir Reanimator, no results. Like, you find just stuff from the last 5 years. Like, the 2017 part didn't matter. Even with quotes, like, it just didn't give me anything I wanted. I tried a top 8 search, like MTG top 8, because they tend to do that. It was really messy. So what I ended up doing was going to MTG the source and finding the thread, and then going to just clicking through until I got to the right year. And it's literally just people arguing over what fatties to play. That's it.
Yeah.
Like, they're just like, no, you should never play... I'm already forgetting the name, but the angel where you have to deal 8 damage, and it gives you
the Alara, the Bant lady. Yes,
yeah.
I registered that in 2010. I can't imagine it being good enough in 2018.
And then people arguing on whether or not Blazing Archon was good enough. The creatures can't attack you, like that sort of thing. And I was just like, okay, I just need a good deck list. And I was like scrolling through multiple pages before I even got to anyone that was like, what do you guys think of my list? And then I took that and modified it. So my improvement on that deck, though, was I added in 2 red sources, and I had 4 of the Stronghold Gambit in the board, so I could do the full Juke to Show and Tell plan. But it just wasn't good in the matchup. So I was like, oh, I have the sweet thing that just isn't good here.
Yeah, Stoneforge Mystic holding it down. Nice. Yeah, my searches also had me on MTG the source a little bit for this adventure, which was a nice place to go. It's a shame we don't have anything like that anymore.
I don't miss it, to be honest. The forums weren't great. There was a time period where I really liked the Legacy subreddit, and then the quality went down. And some people might think it's our fault because we posted videos or whatever. I don't think that's it. I personally don't like the threads that are like, where can I play Legacy on a Tuesday night in Tucson, Arizona, or whatever? Like, why are we posting that here? Like, I don't know. But, you know, I'm in the minority. I'm the bad guy because I make content or whatever.
Well, I'm a known anti-Redditor, so I'm not in there. I'm not reading those things. I'm not posting in there. Couldn't be me. But I spent many hours of my college and high school life on forums. So maybe if there was something more focused, I'd be back. But also, you can't deny that Reddit is a proper, huge social media thing, and getting a forum off the ground these days seems pretty tough. But that's in the past. Do you have any final thoughts before we wrap up the Eras tour forever?
No, I want to just thank Will for giving us one final one. Shout out to you for making this happen. There was a couple of people that contacted us and then just were like, oh, never mind. So glad that Will made it happen.
Yep. Thanks, Will. Okay. If you're on my side, go watch Brian's side. If you're on Brian's side, come see my side. We'll see you next time.
That was a sweet donation deck. If you're interested in seeing your favorite combo deck here at the Epic Storm, visit theepicstorm.com/donation decks, where you can submit a deck to be featured here on this channel. And on top of that, if you're a higher member tier of this channel, like a Stormtrooper or a Combo Cabal, you get 50% off or even free. So there's tons of perks. Submit a donation deck today.